Hello and a very warm welcome to the Internet of Things Made Simple. I'm Larry Humor. This is our 40th mini episode. Many thanks for joining us. Special shout out to any first-time listeners. Welcome aboard. If you're new to the podcast, you may find our webpage to be a place to discover an awful lot about IoT. We have links to previous podcasts, ebooks, blogs, and more. The webpage, surprisingly, is theinternetofThingsMadeSimple.com. As I always do, I ask two things. If you like this podcast, why not subscribe to it using your favorite podcast service? And second, if that podcast service allows you to leave a comment or a review, kindly do so. Once in a while, I like to push the envelope when it comes to topics. Today, that is the case, as we are going to explore some of the things that the IoT industry might not want you to know. Now, I'm a sucker for those pages when it says, like, the top 10 things the airlines won't tell you. So I thought I'd do one here. Now, before I get started, I'm not going to reveal any trade secrets that I know of with regards to issues of particular companies. Rather, I'm going to talk about general things about the industry. In general, there are some great people that work in this space, but hopefully these tips will help you make some better decisions. On to the first one. You're often sold more network, in air quotes, than you need. If a 3G network is fast enough for your application, it's got to run better on 4G, right? And it's going to run supersonic on 5G. Isn't it worth spending the money to make the upgrade? Probably not, in most cases. Don't get me wrong, the newer networks offer some key advantages that you might like, depending on your needs. The extra speed gained makes a ton of difference if you're truly doing a high-speed transaction, like a video transmission, but makes very little sense for the vast majority of IoT applications that send bits and bytes. The same goes for the very much hyped lower latency of 5G. If you're doing real-time surgery, and that's not going to happen anytime soon, by the way, in spite of the newscasts, every millisecond counts. If you're sending alarms where somebody has to walk across the room to view the status, I'm not sure it really does. Finally, the last argument is, don't you want to be on the latest technology for obsolescence purposes? The reality is that today, a 4G-enabled device will have a longer life in terms of cellular network life than you will likely have the device in the field for anyways. To wrap this point up, networks like Cat-M and Cat-1 are not nearly as fast as 4G and 5G, but it's more than likely that one of them is going to be sufficient for your deployment, and it's going to have a lot of longevity in the field, which will greatly reduce your hardware costs. For point number 2, many have come to realize that the products they are using are not nearly as durable as they thought they were. Most products sold into the IoT market space are designed for warm carpeted environments, as the expression goes, with little vibration and very consistent power sources. However, many environments require much more durability than you might think. If you're in a restaurant, expect exposure to liquids. If you're in a factory, there may be chemical exposure, and if your device is used by a mobile worker, it may hit the floor once in a while if they drop it. Consumer-grade devices are not meant to handle these situations. Yet a surprising amount of solutions are based on things like USB sticks and consumer-grade tablets and smartphones. I'm not saying that every solution needs a device that can survive a train crash, but many companies are pushing devices that are destined to have short service lives in the field, which is problematic if your company depends on them. Do your research here. Point number 3 is going to earn me some evil stares at the next trade show I go to, but it has to be said. People in the IoT industry are well aware that their solutions help move automation forward and that we've had a large part in eliminating many jobs. In a perfect world, a deployment that an organization does uses IoT to provide more information to their workers. While it may lessen the need to hire more people in the future as their business improves, most intelligent companies did not eliminate employees after adding IoT. However, many did. Many of the solutions I've sold over the years have allowed companies to reduce cashiers, service people, and more. They have also led to people being fired for inappropriate activities, which the IoT solution pointed out. For those, I don't feel quite so guilty. Do I feel guilty? Well, there's always a point that if your job is either replaced by software or by a robot, then perhaps it was not one that offered the most job security anyway. But it doesn't mean the IoT industry should pretend we didn't play a role in those job losses. And it will get worse. Sensors on board vehicles use IoT technology to work, and this is the power behind the move towards self-driving cars. I may not have directly put somebody out of work, but the IoT industry seems to get a pass when people yell at automation companies. That's for sure. Point number 4 is something that many have found out the hard way. In many cases with different IoT solutions, you're way more locked in than you thought you were. I've heard horror stories from people about how hard it is to change a financial system at a company once you've gone down that path. While changing an IoT solution is not that hard, it does have its issues. Much of your data is held in the cloud, and depending on your contract, you may have access or ownership of it, but you may not. In addition, many solutions do not allow flexibility to change the hardware choice, as many devices are not compatible with some software backends. So you may be forced to use only one particular brand of hardware. Finally, many hardware companies are involved in the middleware portion, which is the glue that allows your cloud-based service to talk to that platform. There is a chance this software may not be compatible with every software service, so it may be difficult to change backend providers without changing out all of your hardware. Before I finish off, this isn't a problem with all vendors, as some platforms are very flexible, and some hardware devices can be reprogrammed or reused with different software. But as I've said many times, do your research here before you commit. It's well worth the effort. Now that I've stepped in it somewhat more, let's go further into it with point number 5. Over-the-air in the case of some hardware should be deemed do it only at your own risk. Let's paint a picture. You have 100 devices all over North America. You need to have constant updates, so you purchase a great software tool that allows you to make easy upgrades to devices in the middle of the night to reduce any downtime. This is perfect, right? With some products, it kinda is. There are safeguards in place to ensure that signed or secure software is used, and if there's a failure during the upgrade, the device will not allow the software to be corrupted and will just reboot themselves. These are the good ones. With some devices, there have been issues with corrupt files, breaks in transmission, and other screw-ups that brick devices. In case you're wondering, what the heck is a brick device? It's not a technical term. It's when your software or firmware becomes so useless, the device is as useful as a brick. Does that mean that you should never do an over-the-air update? No, it can usually work, and it's gotten much, much better. But again, to sound like a broken record, do your research here. Find out what the company does in the event that an upgrade doesn't go smooth. Find out what it does in the event someone tries to update it with a corrupted file. If you don't get a good answer, run. And to wrap up this list so I don't get any more trouble at the next trade show, point number 6, security is often not as well thought out as you might think. If IoT is a topic of interest from you, you definitely want to check out a slightly more nerdy episode, our previous one, 38, where we spoke about the top 10 things companies need to know or be concerned about when it comes to IoT security. Here I'm just going to keep it light. There have been numerous attacks on IoT devices where customers failed to change the default username and password that comes with the device, and hackers were able to gain control of it. As well, many devices do not transmit data securely by default, and even fewer use signed software for upgrades, allowing for potential malware to be put on. If your device prevents all of these things, that's great, but you're in the minority. Too many devices, not just the ones for consumers, which is scary enough, but for corporate use, are nowhere near as secure as they need to be. For some, they might have the security elements put in to make them more secure, but they're either difficult to install or require expensive upgrades to do so. As I've stated in previous episodes, IoT can truly have a secure end-to-end experience if you take the time to ensure all the right components and settings are set. Make sure you do so. As always, many thanks for listening to this episode. I suspect this might be a popular list, and over time, we might decide to do a part 2, or heck, a part 3, 4, and 5, if there's enough things to list. If you can think of more that you want me to add, drop me a note. The best place to start is our Facebook page, The Internet of Things Made Simple. We also have links to material and other things there as well. If I'm personally connected to you on LinkedIn, drop me a note through that service. And if we're personally connected via old-fashioned ways like email or text, send me one of those. Talk to you soon. I'm Larry Bohumor. Take care.